Do they have a civics type of
They have a moral
requirement?
reasoning.
What?
Yeah,
So-
U.S. and the world, which is
U.S.
Yeah.
in the world?
not to be civics government.
What about how America works?
That's pretty much, I think, what the course is designed to
Yeah.
teach, like, issues in America and like.
By the time you get there to college, have you had a school what used to be called civics? You know how the government works, the bicameral,
Yeah,
balance.
we took government in my high school.
Yeah,
But I think it's dependent on like the high school.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious about this because I've been talking to people about the whole business of what used to be civics was a required thing in high school, where I went to high school, so that everybody got some kind of knowledge of how the country's supposed to work, ideally. And, so you had a common understanding of expectations of being a citizen and all of that. So I often wonder, do we get off the track or are they doing it? They're just worried about political correctness and all this other kind of stuff, so I think they feel hamstrung sometimes when it comes to teaching. But I'm old school, so, and it's a free country, so I can say, that's what I learned way back. Does anybody know about what we are or what we do? Because I was thinking I told Alfonso. Are you filming this, Alfonso?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. We're taking advantage of you coming here to try to experiment with something for our own. We have a website. He does a lot of stuff on YouTube. We're trying to take community education and community organization and all these things, into the state of the art of communicating things with people. We're a remnant of what was called the war on poverty. I don't know I'll assume you don't know anything, so it makes it easy for me to make my spiel. In the 60s, the early 60s, just after President Kennedy was assassinated, President Johnson came in to the White House. He was inclined. He had come from a poor background, I think, and had worked with a lot of poor people in Texas when he was coming up, and he was quite the politician. But what he did was they looked around at what the Kennedys had been trying to do, and they had some things in the planning stages to try to do things for poor people in America as a target group. Up until then, it was really not a topic of the government to try to do something about poor people and all this. But the fact of the matter was, in some of President Johnson's speeches, he talked about so many poor people in America and a country of plenty, which is still the case. And a lot of this stuff is kind of old-fashioned and it's not really in vogue now. The conversations have drifted away over these last few years. Politics, the political world is much different now than it was then. The 60s were a time of turbulence in the society in general. The baby boomers, as they were called, were just starting in the early 60s, coming of high school age and then into college, and there've been this huge wave demographically through the society for the last, since they were born, so it's 60 years now starting out. So it was the civil rights movement, voting rights, all this against the problem with the war in Vietnam and all of this stuff, all got all mixed up into the soup together socially. For President Johnson, after trying to pick up some of the legacy of what the Kennedys thought they were going to be able to do, he set up a war on poverty. That's literally what they called it. He set up a whole administration, bureaucracy in Washington called OEO, Office of Economic Opportunity, funded the whole bureaucracy. And there were really 3 or 4 links to the war on poverty platform. You don't want to waste getting hung up on who's in and who's out, and who's the Americans and who's not, and all of this stuff, because it really kind of goes nowhere. We do this, we've done early childhood education for 40 years now. Kids came from all over the world, always did, and learn how to speak English and get Americanized, whether their parents like it or not, real fast. And I don't care where they've come from. I've heard complaints from parents from the four corners of the earth complaining about how my kids don't do it like we used to do it in the old country. They're in America and it's all different and they don't listen to me and they do their own thing and all that stuff. You can't do anything about it. So what we try to do is try to get people to understand you got to read and write English, and the sooner you do it, the better off you are, and go to school and keep going to school if you want to have a better life. Work hard. Nobody's going to hand it to you. You know, they think it's like the two Irish guys, you know, walking downtown by the public garden, Pat and Mike. You know, it was a $20 bill. They saw this. So Pat says, "Hey, Mike, look at this $20 bill. Don't you get it?" He said, "No, I don't want to work my first day in America." Yeah, money's growing on trees. Yeah. And people find out soon enough it's not. But so what we're about now is just trying to help people help themselves. Daycare is huge. When I started, daycare was considered part of the American, the communist plot to break up the American family. Women were supposed to be at home, supposed to take care of their children. The only reason that they weren't doing that was because they either had a failed lifestyle, that, you know, I mean, it was before the women's movement, it was before the divorce, you know, divorces became easy to get, it was before single mothers having to be socially acceptable to having children in most of the society. All those things started really coming on in the 70s in most of the culture. Depending, of course. I mean, I'm painting with a broad brush, but now it's a whole different world. Daycare, which was frowned upon, is now law firms run daycare so they can keep their ones that are striving to be partners working in the office 20 hours a day, and they don't have to worry about little juniors, so they keep them there. They got them in industrial parks. They got them everywhere. Daycare is now a middle class, almost an entitlement. The biggest daycare subsidy that the government provides, not Head Start, not the vouchers for poor people, not the ones to get people off of welfare or any of that stuff. The biggest government subsidy in the tax system is the tax deduction that goes to middle class people, that they can take a deduction on their taxes. It's up to like $500 or $600 a year. It's not much, you know, in the scheme of things. But in total, it's more than all the federal programs to help low income and middle class or working people, more than that subsidy. So even, it's a, you know, kind of a quiet as it's kept kind of thing, but it's a big subsidy on the part of the American people that goes to the higher income. So we work now, most of our families in our daycare, most of them just came to the country probably within the last 8 to 10 years. From all over the place, but they're mostly people that have come here as part of the this most recent immigration wave, trying to make a life in America, working 2 jobs, 3 jobs, you know, like get Haitians. The guy says, well, I got a job from 8 to 3 in the afternoon, and I go to the nursing home from 4 to 11, and then I clean buildings. So the guy says, well, when do you sleep? He said, Saturday. I mean, some people are working all the time to make it. So, and the mother and the father and everybody, whatever your domestic arrangement is, everybody's working to pay the rent and try to have a life. So, we've shifted to, you know, we didn't shift, we take whoever comes through the door. The population has shifted. Most of the people that grew up around here, went to school around here, they moved out to the suburbs already. That's the way it goes in America. You know, you see every city in the country has people that have just kind of moved through, and it's go west, young man, they used to say in the 1800s. You know, your life moves out. Everybody wants to have better schools, they want to get away from problems so their kids can be safe. And, you know, that's just the way people have thought. Who knows what will happen with your lives and the way things go for you, because things are in flux. No, everybody's coming out of college and nobody's getting a job. I mean, that's the hot topic of the day, you know? People coming out of good schools, in good fields, and because the economy's so lousy and not expanding but contracting, jobs are tough. So you're staying in school longer and more, going home. Everybody said they're going off to college. This is it, Ma. Thanks for everything. I'm going off for my own life. 4 or 5 years later, they're knocking on the door. They got the bags there. Well, I can't get an apartment. I can't get a job. I don't have any money. It's like a big deal. You know, if you see you know, anybody who's interested in this stuff, you read those, the Census Bureau has all kinds of stuff that you can look up and see about statistically what's happening. You know, the numbers of people who aren't getting married in the way they used to get married, or either holding off or not getting married at all, living by themselves, huge numbers. I mean, this is 50 years ago, it was unheard of. You know, I mean, other than a little here, a little there, but now, 40–50% of the people are living either by themselves or just, you know, as there was a story in the New York Times the other day, 4 guys, they're all turning 40 years old this year. They've been together since college. Did you see that story? It was a great story. They got their own place somewhere, I don't know, Brooklyn or someplace, and they just, that's it, that's their life. That, you know, they all, you know, the ones that want to get married, they can't get married because they can't afford to, so they just continue to live together. It was kind of cool. They get along, everybody goes their own way, but you know, that's a new thing.